One winter night, in the vast wilderness of Yukon, Canada, the world seemed frozen still. The land, blanketed in an endless sheet of white, was gripped by an unforgiving cold of -45 degrees Celsius. Even the faintest breeze felt like icy knives cutting through flesh. Inside a remote cabin on the edge of the forest, 38-year-old Henry Woods sat by a roaring fireplace. A seasoned wildlife photographer, Henry had chosen this solitary life to immerse himself in the beauty of nature. His cabin, a sanctuary built from years of hard work, was a fortress against the merciless Arctic elements. Henry stared at the frost-covered window, sipping hot cocoa from his favorite mug. He glanced at his old thermometer nailed to the porch wall. It read -45 degrees Celsius. "Coldest night this year," he muttered to himself, wrapping his blanket tighter. But something was different tonight. Something unsettling. Suddenly, the silence of the icy wilderness was broken. A loud, rhythmic thud echoed through the cabin walls. Thud, thud, thud. Henry froze. His heart raced. He leaned closer to the window, squinting through the frost-covered glass. At first, he saw nothing but swirling snow. But then, a shadow emerged, large, looming, and unmissable. It was a grizzly bear. Henry's breath hitched. Bears were not uncommon in the Yukon, but this one was behaving oddly. Instead of attacking or scavenging, the bear was gently tapping the glass. Her paw left frost marks on the window as she pressed against it rhythmically, almost as if she were knocking. Henry's pulse quickened. Years of experience taught him to stay cautious around bears. But there was something about this mother bear, her posture, her movements, her eyes. She wasn't here to attack. Behind the bear, barely visible in the howling snow, Henry noticed 3 small cubs huddled together, trembling. One of them collapsed into the snow, its tiny body shivering uncontrollably. The mother bear turned and picked the cub up by its scruff, pressing it against the glass. Her eyes locked onto Henry's, pleading, desperate, full of pain. Henry stumbled back, unsure of what to do. His mind raced. This isn't normal. Bears don't do this. Do they? The mother bear raised her paws and tapped the glass again, harder this time. Her movements were deliberate. She wasn't acting out of instinct. She was asking for help. Henry grabbed his flashlight and cautiously stepped towards the door. His hand trembled as he turned the doorknob. The cold air rushed in, stealing his breath. The mother bear took a step back, her head low, her eyes unblinking. She gently placed the weak cub on the threshold, nudging it forward with her nose. Henry could see frost forming on the cub's fur, its tiny chest heaving weakly. In that moment, Henry made a decision that would change his life forever. Henry grabbed a blanket from the coat rack and wrapped the cub carefully, pulling it inside. The mother bear let out a soft growl, not of anger, but of acknowledgement. She gently nudged her 2 other cubs toward the door. One by one, Henry brought them in, his hands shaking from the cold and the weight of his decision. Once all 3 cubs were inside, the mother bear cautiously stepped over the threshold. Henry's heart pounded. A fully grown grizzly bear was inside his home. Yet, she showed no aggression, no malice. She carefully shook the snow off her fur and moved to the corner of the room, sitting protectively near her cubs. Henry stoked the fireplace, warming the room. The cubs began to stir, their shivering subsiding. The mother bear watched intently as Henry wrapped them in blankets and placed small bowls of warm water nearby. Over the next few hours, an extraordinary bond began to form. The mother bear never moved from her spot, her eyes following Henry's every movement. Occasionally, she would nuzzle her cubs, ensuring they were warm. Henry, in turn, whispered soft words, unsure if she understood but hoping to soothe her anxiety. As the storm raged on outside, Henry noticed something remarkable. The mother bear used her snout to adjust the blankets on her cubs, mimicking the way Henry had done earlier. Her intelligence and gentleness left him in awe. By morning, the storm began to subside. The cubs, now lively and playful, climbed onto their mother's back. It was time for them to leave. The mother bear stood, her massive frame towering over Henry. For a moment, she stared into his eyes. Then, with surprising delicacy, she placed her paw on his arm. It wasn't a gesture of dominance, it was gratitude. Henry opened the door, the cold air rushing in once again. The mother bear led her cubs out into the snowy wilderness, but before disappearing into the forest, she turned back one last time. Her gaze lingered on Henry, a silent promise that she would never forget his kindness. To this day, Henry keeps a framed photo of that night, 3 small paw prints in the snow leading away from his cabin. He tells the story to anyone who'll listen, a testament to the bond that can exist between humans and the wild. And as for the mother bear, Henry swears he still sees her sometimes, lingering at the edge of the forest, watching over him like an old friend.